Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now today is Sunday, there's football on TV, I'm hanging out, relaxing in my studio, and I thought today would be a great opportunity to get my Ruger PC Carbine outfitted with a sling. Now at this point, I have literally no way to carry this other than by hand, or because this is a takedown unit, well, theoretically, I could split this apart, put it in a backpack, get it to where I need to go, and, well, at that point, put this back together and be ready to go at the range. But other than that, literally no other way to carry this. And so today, what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at a couple of components that I've gotten specifically for this rifle. So first here you can see this is the Catalyst arms and what they're calling the hard point accessory mounting system specific for the Ruger PC Carbine. And then here, well, a Magpul M-LOK QD sling mount. These are going to be absolutely instrumental in my ability to get a sling mounted onto my Ruger PC Carbine. Now the sling, I did have a couple of different options. First and foremost, I could certainly go with kind of like a one-point sling, but there's no great way to do that on this particular carbine. No way to really sort of mount it in a location where it's going to be fairly balanced. Really what I'm looking at is all the way on the back end here, and then, well, even if I took advantage of the factory mount, not exactly balanced, and then all the way up on the M-LOK on the rail, that is another opportunity. And then all the way up on the M-LOK for the Handguard, that is certainly another opportunity. And what I thought the best thing would be, well, a two-point sling. And if that's the case, well, I am going to leverage my Beachin tactical sling, which is perfect because I do already have my Ruger 1022 outfitted in a way to leverage this. And that gives me some great flexibility. So today what we're gonna do is gonna take a little bit of time here. We're gonna get these accessories mounted onto my Ruger PC Carbine. We're going to see how it works out for a two-point sling option so I can carry my rifle. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. And so again, if you've been watching my channel, you've been seeing me go through a little bit of an iteration with my Ruger PC Carbine. Now, at this point, this is kind of my go-to rifle between this and the 1022. I'm fairly new to firearms. I'm getting things going, and this Ruger PC Carbine, for me, has just been awesome. I love this. A fantastic shooting gun, very comfortable, not too much in the way of heavy recoil, and reasonably affordable to shoot, all things considered. But again, currently with no great way to carry this, I definitely want to get it outfitted. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to work on the back end here. So on the buttstock, there are some spacers. Now, I've already set this up for the appropriate length of pull for my body size and my shooting style, what's comfortable for me and my ability to mount the weapon, get a nice grip, and be able to see down both my iron sights, but also optics. And this is set up pretty well. So I like the length of pull. And the first thing we're going to look at here, well, again, this Catalyst Arms hard point accessory mounting system specific for the Ruger PC Carbine. Essentially what this is a spacer, but with a little bit of an addition. And so as we get into this here, everything should be fairly straightforward. I don't necessarily see this being anything terribly difficult. However, as we take a look here, this is again the accessory mounting system for the Ruger PC Carbine. Now, this is going to work out fairly well, I think, all things considered. This should allow me to get this mounted, and they're calling this the LOP sling attachment. So we'll see exactly what this does for me. But again, in essence, as you see here, this is a spacer, yet it has the hole for the QD sling. So I'm hoping this will work out fairly well. And as we take a look at the butt end of the rifle here, again, I have the buttstock formatted the exact way I need for the size of my body and my length of pull. And right away, what I am seeing is this ends up being a slightly different size than the factory spacers. So I wonder if the intent here is for this little thin spacer on the inside to come out. This might mate all the way into the inside, and at that point it is fairly close to the full width here of the thin spacer plus the first spacer. But if not, this might space itself out just a little bit longer, and then I'll have to make some decisions whether or not to keep one of these or remove it altogether. And in order to do this, you get your handy dandy 9/64 hex key. So now that I have this hex key here, very straightforward. In the back end of the recoil pad, you'll notice there are a couple of holes. All you do, basically, there are a couple of bolts in there. Take the bolts all the way out, and then your recoil pad and spacers will come off with it. Again, very simple. These are not cranked down overly tight, nor do they need to be. And again, I'm just going to back these all the way off until this recoil pad and spacers come out. And so now, with the recoil pad and spacers removed, one thing that you'll notice is this was that thin, what I thought was a spacer, but as you take a look, that actually has the threads in it. So that is permanent. And now at this point, well, here you can see my adapter. So this is going to fit basically one way. You'll notice it's a teardrop shape. Fits in one specific direction, so you can't really mess this up at all. And the only question is, where exactly do I want this to sit? And my opinion is as close to the actual factory stock as possible. I really don't want it like further and further out on the spacers, because that will just add additional torque and really tweak on things and yank at the bolts. So I'm basically at this point just going to remove one of these spacers, get that out of the way, and then this is pretty much going to take the space of that, and it should reasonably keep approximately the same length of pull for the most part. You can see it is going to be just a little bit longer. Again, at this point, this is a little bit thinner on the original spacer than on the spacer with the QD sling mount. So just a little bit different here. Now, something worth noting, and I am running into a little bit of a problem, and this is something definitely to pay attention to. Again, remember, my original spacer was just a little bit shorter, a little bit thinner than the QD mount attachment. But because this is thicker, my bolts actually don't go far enough to thread into the back end of the stock, which means I actually need to remove another spacer. So because of that, my length of pull is now going to be shorter than it was originally, and that has me a little bit bummed out, but you can see now I have enough threads to go into the back end of the rifle. And so, yeah, I mean, I am not entirely happy about that. The only other thing I could do would be maybe do some research and find myself some longer bolts. And so now, with everything properly fitted up, you can see here I have now traded spacers 2 for 1. And I'm not thrilled about that, but it is what it is. And if you are somebody who's leveraged all the spacers and you've already been happy with your Ruger PC Carbine, take that into consideration. So I'm going to do a little more research on my own, see if I can get myself some longer bolts just to kind of get me back to that closer to original length of pull. But at this point, I mean, it does shrink this up on me. I was very comfortable where I was at. And, I mean, what am I talking about? Maybe a ½ an inch. But, I mean, it's literally from me being perfectly comfortable to a little bit cramped. This does impact it for me. It was literally the exact length I needed, and now it's just a little bit cramped. It does make a difference. That's crazy. I mean, I am most definitely not an expert, but I mean, I can tell you that the further and further I get into firearms and the more comfortable I get with my rifles, you kind of get used to them. So this is going to be a little bit of a learning curve and a little bit of a setback for me. However, moving forward. That takes care of the buttstock. But what about the handguard? So again, leveraging Magpul products. Magpul has a ton of M-LOK. This could either go potentially with some sort of a pick adapter or M-LOK. And to me, M-LOK's a better choice because it's sort of your first line of attachment. It's the tightest I can get to my handguard. If I was going to go with a pick adapter, first I would have to adapt the pick adapter onto the M-LOK and then go to the QD adapter. So that's just adding too many components. So to simplify, again, this Magpul QD sling attachment, which leads me to the next decision point about where exactly to mount it. Now, again, I go back to one of the first things I said. I'm fairly new to firearms. I don't carry a lot of rifles. It's not what I need to do. Certainly, I'm not in business to do so. So as a novice, I need to make some decisions about what's going to work for me. Now, my brain tells me, and the comfort tells me, having something that's about as close to my body, really the better, but at the same time, with something that's loose enough that I can get it off, mount it with ease and not really fuss around. So what that does kind of tell me is I want something around this area on my handguard, but remember, it's a handguard. So again, I know as I grip the rifle to actually shoot, I'm going to be in this location roughly. So I have some competing demands here between my weapon-mounted flashlight, between the adapter that's going to go on the handguard, and then my actual hand gripping the firearm in the first place. And so this could lead to some difficulties. Now, it's something I'm going to have to play with. I might not get it right the first time, but the only way to figure it out is to get into it. And so I've been doing a little bit of thinking, a little bit of planning, a little bit of soul searching, and I think I've come to a little bit of a crossroads with my Ruger PC Carbine. Now, certainly not insurmountable, but I do need to rethink a lot of different things. I need to rethink, how my bipod mount and my rail on the bottom is going to be mounted. That's probably going to move. I might move my O-light, but all of this is also going to change how I hold the rifle. But for the short term, I am considering putting my M-LOK in this general area right around here. So my QD attachment, I think, will probably work best for me right about here. Now, I'm not going to crunch this down. I'm just literally going to turn the little T-nuts, and I'm going to dry fit it right now to see how this works. And so after testing it here, I decided to push it all the way back. So you'll notice I slammed it all the way to the back end of the rail. So at this point, I could theoretically still get on this if I wanted to with my current grip, and that should be out of the way, not really bother me. But once I roll this around, it is kind of in the meat of my hand, which is why I'm saying I do need to kind of rethink the rest of this. So what I'm going to do is actually pull this piece of rail back, and that's going to allow me to get more forward with my grip, which is not a bad thing. That's going to help me with some balance. It's hopefully going to help me with recoil management, and getting my hand a little more forward should actually be better technique. And so I did move my rail on the bottom back, and last but not least, I have like a little pick rail / camera mount, which I do use for filming while I'm at the range. And so that now is completely out of my way, and with the sling, so the M-LOK QD sling mount, you'll see all the way to the inside. Well, now when I grip further out, that is completely out of the way. And in fact, same with all the rest of my hardware. My hand might bear just a little bit against that, but if I lock it, that will not be a problem. So this will work out fairly well. And at this point, it's time to mount up my actual sling. So I do have my QD sling mounts. Now for the buttstock, this is going to go on the outside here. So it should, I believe, go on the outside so that my sling wraps around the top of my shoulder. And then, of course, here, this one will be on the inside, so that should work out fairly well. And so here you can see how this is fit up pretty well, actually, all things considered. And the only thing that bothers me, I just personally hate all the clips and stuff just digging and scratching against the back of this. So got this nice little protector here, no problem, that sits over the top, fits on there well. The sling nice and into place. Now I have the ability to cinch up on this if I want to, but this seemingly fitting about right. I do have the buttstock here close to the pocket where I want that in case I need to mount the weapon, and generally speaking, fairly comfortable. Now I feel like I can work hands-free. If I needed to, I could slide this to the side, get on my handgun here, easy to mount right where I need it. And length of pull is definitely different, but not a huge deal. And now that I'm gripping further forward, I might get myself a shorter rail just because, but it's hard to say. But this actually feels pretty good. I think I'll get used to this no problem. And the fact that now I have a shoulder strap that works well for me, fantastic. And the only thing that I did need to discuss and didn't really cover in too much detail, but this theoretically could have been mounted really on either side. So as you notice here, righty or lefty, you are good to go. And in my particular case, you know, of course I did mount it on the outside and I am right-handed. So as I take this and get it over my shoulder, this in general is going to work nicely. I'm actually pretty happy with the way this came out. And so like everything firearms for me, it is a learning experience. Every time I get into this, I learn a little bit more. Every time I try to buy components and upgrade my equipment and just get further and further into it, I learn. And that's exactly what today was about. So now I have additional function. I have a couple of little aesthetic changes. I have a couple of little sort of geometry changes that I'm going to need to get used to. So it's back to the range, back to practice, but more than anything else, just enjoying my Ruger PC Carbine. And so, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more of my primary gear. On that channel, I cover everything from hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, all the gear that goes with it. So from sleep systems, shelter systems, knives, axes, flashlights, backpacks, you name it, that's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.